Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at Sweet Baby Backlash Goes Nuclear and Suicide Squad and Spider-Man 2 Destroyed by Woke Company. I've been asked to react to this video. It's been around for about, maybe half a day now, so I don't normally react to these because I do like the videos to kind of make their mark on their own channel. It's already had like 70,000 views. And, if the author wants me to take this down, if he's watching this video, just reach out to me and I'll take it down. I've got no problem with that at all. I will be linking his details in the comment section below. Anyone that watches this video, please go to that video and also just let the video run its course so he can get the view as well, because he put a lot of effort into this video. So if you could please do that. Like I said, I don't like reacting to videos that are this early. So if you are watching this, please do go to that video in the description below after you've watched this and just let it run its course. Do what you need in the background, let it run its course, let it get a full view with full time. I really would appreciate that. Otherwise, I'll basically be stopped doing these in terms of reacting to them so early. Okay, so let's see what he has to say, because this has gone nuclear at the moment and there's a lot of backlash. I've even been blocked by someone called Kirkland. I don't even know why. I'm guessing it's because I responded to the Midnight game from Xbox. I always forget the name, saying that this game is probably dead on arrival. So that's probably why they blocked me, but I've never interacted with Baby Ink at all. But weird that I'm blocked anyway. But anyway, let's go.
What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and there's a massive culture war battle currently raging across various platforms. And it's becoming clear as day that the consumers that actually keep the game industry afloat are fighting back. And the people who want to ruin our favorite hobby are not pleased at all, and they're demanding that these individuals be silenced. There's quite a bit to go over, so let's get to it. This all started because a user on Steam decided to release a curator, which, if you don't know what those are, they're essentially filter tools that you can use to find things more effectively on Steam. Like, you could have a curator that automatically combs through Steam's thousands of games and looks for Souls-likes or JRPGs, you get the idea. It's a handy tool, and it makes life for many much easier. It can also be used to compile lists of games that have other things in common besides genre. And this curator tool in question compiles all the games that Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on into one handy, comprehensive list. This has, of course, pissed off a few people who work at Sweet Baby, but let's dial back a second here. Since not everyone knows who or what Sweet Baby even is, to quickly give you the lore surrounding them, Sweet Baby is a consulting firm that works primarily on video games, and their sole mission is to bring inclusivity and diversity into the games that they work on.
Now that in itself is not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. For a long time, there really hasn't been any diversity or inclusivity in video games. So, bringing that in is actually not a bad thing. If they actually did what they were supposed to do and what they were, described to be doing as their manifesto, none of this would have gotten out of hand. But unfortunately, that is not what they are doing.
By handling things from character interactions, dialogue, how concepts are presented, and so on. Basically, when a company doesn't know how to properly convey a culture or the small things included with a character so they don't end up making something racist by accident.
And that can happen accidentally, right? There's no malicious intent. In the recent Spider-Man, they got the flag wrong. That was purely a mistake. They owned up to it. They fixed it pretty much almost immediately. It was a genuine mistake that they made, but this is the sort of thing that Baby Inc. is supposed to, catch before it goes live, and clearly they failed at that too.
They call these consulting firms to ensure they don't do things in a tone-deaf way. Obviously, from hearing that, you might well think that doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, that's of course the opposite of what's happening here. Seeing as how pretty much every game that Sweet Baby has touched has been to varying degrees made worse with their involvement. The latest case would of course be Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which if you compare that game to the previous ones it's attached to, that being of course the Batman Arkham games, The tonal differences, not to mention how characters are treated, couldn't be any more different. And whenever Sweet Baby gets involved, it becomes evidently clear that these products suddenly, without question, give favorable care to any character that isn't a straight white male.
And that seems to be the problem when it comes to Sweet Baby Inc. We're seeing this more and more and more, and it seems to be, instead of it being diversity and inclusiveness, it's becoming a political agenda for them to push their views, push their political views into video games. And for years, not just in regards to DEI, but we have not wanted politics in our video games. We have not wanted political agendas in our video games, because video games are supposed to be an escape from the bullshit that is the real world. We want something that's here for us to be immersed in and get lost in. And it's supposed to be a fantasy world where we get to see stuff that we just don't see in the real world. So we can actually just immerse ourselves in a make-believe reality. But that's something that, Baby Inc. is kind of against and doesn't want happening, because apparently it sets an unrealistic expectation when it comes to people. Why it does that, or why a pixel can actually do that, speaks more about someone's mental well-being than it does of the actual people developing, really attractive characters, right?
Batman in Arkham compared to Squad is of course one really good example. However, the other one that disappointed me greatly was how Peter Parker was treated from Spider-Man 2018 compared to the most recent game. In the 2018 game, which had no Sweet Baby involvement to my knowledge anyway, Peter Parker was an extremely capable, heroic young man. And I would argue that version of Peter and Spider-Man to be an incredible depiction of what a modern-day Spider-Man should be. So much so that I honestly wish the MCU Spider-Man was more like that Spidey in the 2018 Insomniac game. Then, when you play Spider-Man 2, suddenly Peter seems weaker and not as capable as a hero, seemingly out of nowhere. And Miles Morales, who is clearly a person of color, starts to quickly overshadow Peter.
And, I've played Spider-Man 2, a bit of Spider-Man 1. I can tell you that Peter in Spider-Man 2 is weaker. I enjoyed playing as Miles Morales more because he just had the better skills, the better abilities. He was way stronger overall and just had better crowd control. He was just overall a better character. And, if you could play the whole game as Miles Morales, you would never want to go back to Peter Parker. There was no reason to go back to him because Miles overall was just the better character. And it's a bit weird, but, you could see where they were going with it anyway, because by the end of the game, spoiler alert, if you don't want to see this, mute it until I wave my hands. The game turns around and tells you that Miles Morales is going to be the Spider-Man and Peter Parker is retiring. I mean, all of this was, it was all pointed towards as you played the game, and it's just like, why? Why? I'm not saying Miles isn't Miles isn't a Spider-Man, but at the end of the day, he has his own game. And by the end of the game, you've got like a Green Goblin coming back and Dr. Octopus. Like, what connection does Miles Morales have with those two villains? Those are Spider-Man villains, Peter Parker villains, right? He's the one that has a personal connection with those, not Miles Morales. So how is that even going to tie in? It doesn't make any sense. But because of Baby Inc.'s involvement, that's the narrative that got pushed through. And Peter Parker got pushed out.
By the end of Spider-Man 2, Miles is confirmed by Insomniac to be the main Spider-Man going forward. Which, if you've played the Insomniac games, Miles being the main character doesn't make really any sense at all.
Guys, I haven't seen this video, okay? I haven't seen this video yet. So, my spoiler alert was a waste of time because I think he's about to get into it.
Especially considering that the main villains of the next inevitable Spider-Man game will obviously be Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus. And fans who've played these games would know that Miles has no personal connection to either of these villains, yet of course Peter obviously does. But that doesn't matter, because Peter Parker represents everything Sweet Baby and their consultants actively work to undermine or ruin in their entirety. So this company has essentially made video games across the board more inclusive, but retroactively has also made every single title they've touched worse because of their involvement. And this Steam Curator tool compiles a list of every game that has had Sweet Baby involved. Here, I'll show you some of the games. As you can see, they've worked on quite a few AAA titles already.
That number is now at 27,000. I just checked before watching this because I was interested because a friend of mine sent me the link. It's now at 27,000.
Including the Sony Spider-Man games, Ratchet & Clank.
So Ratchet & Clank introduced Evie, I think her name was, or something like that. And she pretty much took center stage for the actual series. She actually was a better character than Ratchet in some areas, or more prominent, which I thought was weird considering it's called Ratchet & Clank, but there you go. I'm not sure if Gears is going to be in this, but you had a very strong female character. I've got nothing wrong with that at all. And I don't think Gears was too bad, to be fair. I think Gears was done okay, but the story itself kind of wasn't risky enough in order to push it forward. I didn't play Gears Tactics, so I can't really comment on that.
Clank, which of course introduced Rivet, who outshines Ratchet quite often in that game.
I don't know what the involvement of them was in Outriders. I didn't really see much there. I'm hoping they don't screw up Indiana Jones because I'm a massive indie fan and I would really, really hate them to screw that game up for me. But as you can see here with Gears 5, you've got it right at the bottom there. You know, the female character took center stage ahead of Marcus Phoenix. And to me, that's not right. Gears is Marcus. End of story.
Because she's a girl, so that's a part of their objective too. And interestingly enough, you'll also notice quite a few games that have either not resonated with fans, such as Starfield, or games that have outright bombed in closed studios, like Forspoken and Saints Row. Even other DC games that got terrible receptions, like Gotham Knights, have also been worked on by Sweet Baby as well, which is a game that felt like a pale imitation of the Batman Arkham series.
South of Midnight was the one I mentioned, and that's the one that got me banned by, I think his name was Chris Kirkland.
And went out of its way to make sure that you knew that Nightwing and Robin are not straight, because...
Huh? Nightwing and Robin not straight? Then again, they did try to pass off King Shark as gay as well, so... I mean, this is the thing. Like, why do they need to alter the gender of established characters? Create new characters and do what you want with them. The problem people have today is the fact that you are taking established characters and altering them. People don't want you to do that. They've got no problem if you create a new character and push that character and, you know, play with that character, and they have a certain gender identity. People will have no problem with that. It's when you take established characters who everyone knows their gender identity is pretty much set in stone, and then you go and decide, we are going to change it because we want to and because we can, because we want to push our political agenda. That's when it becomes a problem.
Because ESG reasons. As you can see, this tool is also gaining a lot of steam, no pun intended, in terms of followers. Last night, it was around 9,000 follows. Now, as of the making of this video, it's around 24,000.
And as the making of this video, it's at 27,000.
As you can see in real time here as I refresh the page over and over again, the number of follows is steadily increasing at a healthy rate, so this curator tool is becoming quickly popular, and it's clear fans are happy that it exists. Of course, the people at Sweet Baby think its existence is harmful, and actively want it removed and are resorting to trying to strong-arm Steam into banning the user in question. And
now that's pretty bad, right? Because if you ban them on Steam for doing something like this, which isn't against terms of service, all they've done is created a curator service, which will be useful for someone who basically doesn't want to be involved with games made by X, Y, and Z, or doesn't want to be involved with games by a certain publisher. So there's no real difference to that. So I can't imagine Steam actually banning them. But if they do, they lose their whole library as well. So this company is actively trying to shut down someone's whole Steam account. That's not cool, man. That is not cool. Just so they can, you know, push their political ideology onto gamers. Screw them. Like, this is where I draw the line. When you start damaging and trying to, actually put people out of pocket, fuck you. Fuck the write-off.
And if that were to happen, not only would this user lose their curator tool, but access to their entire library of games on Steam as well. So what are these sweet baby boys and girls saying exactly? Well, before I do that, just a reminder, don't harass these people. Let's just analyze and look over what they're doing. And to be frank with you guys, these sweet baby employees are doing more damage themselves by bringing attention to this to begin with. But anyway, one of these consultants is someone named Chris Kindred, who here, as you can see, tells their thousands...
That's the one. I said Kirkland. It's Kindred. So that's the one that's actually banned me for... And I haven't had any interaction with this dude or dudette or whatever they are. It looks like a woman, I guess. So, dudette. I've not had any interaction with this person, but they've decided that they want to ban me because... I said South of Midnight is probably going to fail now that it has had an interaction with Sweet Baby Inc.
Of followers to report this tool. And they also made it apparent here that they're hoping it works so that this user loses their game library access. Kindred is basically jangling keys in front of their followers to mass harass and report someone that they don't agree with.
So if it's okay for Kindred, who works for Baby Inc., to do that, I think it's perfectly fine for everyone to go and start mass reporting this person and actually trying to get them off Twitter entirely. Because it works both ways, right? I know Endymion has said not to harass them, and I totally respect that. But if you're going to have someone who is going out of their way to try and cost someone hundreds, if not thousands of pounds, potentially, right? Depending on how big their catalogue is. And they are perfectly okay with doing that. I think it's fair game for everyone to go and mass report this person in order to get their account just removed from Twitter. And maybe then they'll understand that that's not the way to go. Because that is inciting, hatred towards someone. That's literally what they're doing. They are inciting violence and inciting violence and hatred towards someone in order to meet an end goal because it doesn't suit their political ideology. That is against the terms of service of Twitter.
Which is technically against the terms of service on Twitter. And that's why I tell you to not harass these people, because we cannot stoop to their level. There's also another sweet bing bong baby here whose username is Lego Butts. That name might not be familiar to many of you, but let me catch you up on some lore, shall I? So thanks to Grums over on Twitter. He's the guy who led the original team that made World of Warcraft, produced Diablo 2 and StarCraft and more. Well, he's on our...
He's also the Starfield title gate guy too, so do take that into consideration.
Our side, fellas. He thinks Sweet Baby is a cancer as well, so he's been calling out all of these people, who have all to varying degrees locked their replies or accounts entirely. But don't worry, I got all the receipts already, fellas, so we're good over here. Anyway, back to Lego Butts. They work for Sweet Baby as well, and they're of course echoing what that Kindred person said and wants the curator tool gone and the user banned on Steam, for simply making a curator tool that does what it's said to do. However, it turns out Lego Butts is a veteran of the Gamergate era, as thanks to Grums. So, back in February 2014, people like Lego Butts, who's in bed with people like Zoe Quinn, who, if you know anything about Gamergate, Zoe Quinn is an infamous figure during this time. She's a raging feminist who actually, through accusations that weren't true, ended up getting a game developer to, how do I say this on YouTube? Well, they unalive themselves.
Basically, it's what we say, deleting their save file. They no longer exist. And that's awful. The fact that this person actually harassed someone to that point where the person deleted their save file is disgusting. And the fact that Sweet Baby Inc. is happy to employ someone of that caliber, anyone is happy to employ someone of that caliber, means that they are as corrupt as they possibly can be and need to be shut down. I don't care what two ways you go about it. There is no redemption for that sort of thing. If you turn around and bully someone to the point where they delete their save file, and then you think that that person is perfectly acceptable to be employed, you are as scummy as they are. Simple as that. You deserve everything you get, and you deserve to be shut down, boycotted. And at this point, I think everyone should just boycott these games until these companies actually feel it on the actual, the bottom line. Because when they do feel it on the bottom line, that's when they'll turn around and say, Sweet Baby Inc., fuck off. That's what they'll say. Because at that point, companies don't give a shit. Companies never give a shit about DEI. Do you know why? Because we have Spider-Man in Saudi Arabia that has it all removed. It's all about the profits. In the Western culture, DEI is massive. So it's very profitable to be pro-DEI. That's why we are so into this stuff. But in the Eastern side, they don't give two shits. That's why it doesn't exist over there. Especially in the Middle East, where it absolutely doesn't exist. And that's why they have released a special version of Spider-Man with all of the pride flags and all of this stuff removed. Why? If they cared about DEI so much, why would they do that? Because they value profits more than they do DEI. That's blatant proof for you that the only reason these Western companies are doing it is because of profits. And if you hit their profits, they will, turn around to Sweet Baby Inc. and say, see ya, suckers, we like money more than we like you. It's really that simple. Although certain games shouldn't be boycotted because, it's a double-edged sword. If games really do fail on that level, then job losses will happen, and that's the last thing I want. So maybe boycotting isn't the right thing. But something needs to be done. Voices need to be, heard, and maybe a movement needs to happen of some kind, because this cannot continue.
Because of her. And she has been known to use her influence to get positive reviews on stuff she's worked on too. So, back in 2014, Zoe Quinn, along with this LegoButts user, launched a DDoS attack against a site they didn't agree with called the Find Young Capitalists, which was a targeted attack that brought the site down to its knees because people like Quinn and Lego didn't agree with them. And Zoe Quinn was even quoted saying when this happened at LegoButts, "Oops, we DDoS something on accident." Then Quinn said, "I like how a conversation between me and LegoButts resulted in accidentally killing an exploitative startup's website." So who are these young capitalists exactly? Apparently, they were a charity that was working to get women to work in video games. And through sponsors and charity, they would create games with the goal of promoting women. For whatever reason, Zoe Quinn and LegoButts didn't want this to go through. And though those tweets are still available on Twitter as of the making of this video anyway, they decided to dox the charity, which resulted in that charity losing $10,000 in sponsors due to those companies pulling out due to the dox.
And yet Sweet Baby Inc. is employing these people for DEI. That just shows you how corrupt this company actually is. It's all politically moved. There is no DEI in that company. Everything is a political agenda, from their narrative writing to their story driven. Everything is, even to the actual characters being selected to do certain things, whether they are being pushed for DEI or not. It is all politically motivated.
And LegoButts went out of their way to dox people who worked with this charity because they wanted to. I'll link a Reddit thread in the description if you want to go over yourself, since it's a lot, and obviously since I don't want this video to be like an hour long, I won't delve too deep into it. But the point here is that people like LegoButts are intrinsically tied to the Gamergate era, and they now work as a consultant with Sweet Baby Inc. So this is someone who's been heavily involved with suppressing free speech and enforcing ideological ideas for a long time, over 10 years at least at this point anyway.
I'm also good, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm going to have a link to the actual video in the description below, and you can find the Reddit link in the description of the actual video, because I would like you to actually go to the Endymion's video and actually let it run its course as well. So please do that. I'd really appreciate it. It would mean the world to me, because I am, breaking my own rule here by reacting to a video that's less than 48 hours old.
So here's what LegoButts had to say concerning this curator tool that exposes them. Again, all from Twitter, so let's read together. Which, listen, I'm not sure who uses curator lists. My guess is it's people who would never ever buy the games any of us work on, except they do and don't list those particular games here. But there's just nothing preventing this, even though it's clearly not what curators are for. It's doubled in followers overnight, and we get to see exactly what people are describing it as, a way to avoid inclusivity. They're just saying it, and there's no one challenging them. That isn't a complaint, it's just a fact, and I can't stay quiet about it, nor should I have to. For example, at Steam doesn't have guidelines for curators, as far as I can tell, that would prevent someone from starting a curation group that focuses on, say, Sweet Baby Inc., and warns people to not buy games they're associated with, which could just list any game at all. Anyway, remember that these people do exist, and while ignoring it goes a very long way, boosting those you know are affected and targeted is the other side of it that needs to also happen. Not even Sweet Baby, just everyone existing that they are angry at for existing. It's pretty funny to see a note on my Steam curator post. I guess they need to defend themselves because they're completely wrong about everything Sweet Baby or any narrative team does and have no interest in finding out. Lego Butts is clearly attempting to save face and try to paint Sweet Baby as this righteous cause. But we know that's anything but the case in reality. The truth is that everything Sweet Baby has touched has been ruined or downright destroyed. And it's obvious that when they are involved with something, things can even get so bad that they actually end up closing shop. Like with Forspoken or Saints Row, which are two games whose studios closed down to how poorly they sold and reviewed. Of course, users on Twitter then began replying to these consultants, and they had some good things to say, like this person for example. I'm confused. Why would this be a problem? No matter what your thoughts are, I don't see why it shouldn't be allowed for a curator to identify games with some specific companies involved. I'm sure other curators do similar things for different reasons.
And that's the point, right? A curator is there designed for the sole purpose of collating information based on a topic or a publisher or a subject. And this is, Sweet Baby Inc. is no different. The fact is, people are sick and tired of Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement. They don't want anything to do with this. They actually want to basically do a movement where they can basically let these publishers know that if you are going to work with this company, this, as far as they're concerned, corrupt company, then we do not want to support your games. And so this is a good way of them being able to do that without having to do any legwork, because the curator itself does the work for them. It's literally, the sole purpose of why it exists, collecting games. If I put down Final Fantasy as a curator, it will collect all the Final Fantasy games for me, so I can go in and see what's available on Steam for Final Fantasy. This is no different. It's exactly the same thing.
Cringe. I thought you were proud of your work. Why hide it? This one especially resonated with me because it's true. If a consulting firm like this is so proud of their work on the video games that they create, why wouldn't they want their work to be more publicly known?
On top of this, if you go to their website, they used to have a list of publishers that they used to work with, from Microsoft to Compulsion Games, Square Enix. There's loads on that list. That page is now gone because they are trying to protect their relationship with these companies, because now they've realized that financially these companies are about to take a hit, and that will mean that any contract that they have with these companies goes bye-bye. So now it's gone from a political standpoint to, oh my god, we're about to lose money, we need to do something. So how much DEI are these people actually into compared to how much money they're into? Everything stops with money, right?
The only reason why you wouldn't want your work to be known is because you know deep down in your heart that what you're doing is disingenuous.
Exactly what I said. Seriously, Endymion. It's almost like we have this kind of psychic connection. Seriously, chat, I've not watched this video. I've not watched it. This is the first time I'm actually watching it. It's like we've got this telepathic mindset where we are literally on the same wavelength to the T.
And actively works to ruin the products you're involved with. There simply can't be any other reason. And that's what many users are clearly pushing back against. Everyone is tired and annoyed of their favorite games getting destroyed like this time and again. All I wanted was great Spider-Man games that didn't sideline Peter Parker or make him seem pathetic. Yet as soon as Sweet Baby got involved with Spider-Man, it was obvious that anyone who is white, straight, or male must be ruined to make way for the new age of progress in their minds, I guess. And we're clearly all tired of it, and it's clear that when consumers voice their opinions, they just get attacked and belittled constantly. So the only real course of action that will actually change things is for consumers to vote with their wallets, which is clearly what they've been doing. And remember that stuff like Saints Row or Forspoken failed and imploded long before anyone even knew what Sweet Baby even was at the time. Those games were not boycotted because of these consultants being involved. As like I said, their name and existence was largely unknown at the time. But it was clear that the messages and handling of these games were considered so poor that users rejected them anyway.
So one of the big questions with Forspoken was, who is the dad? The dad was completely and utterly sidelined, never spoken about, never talked about, never even, investigated. He was just pushed aside. The only character that was ever important was the mother, a female character. Now, I'm not saying that this was deliberately done, but it stood out like a sore thumb. I remember watching Angry Joe's review of this, and even he said the same thing. What about the father? Where is he? Where does he factor into all of this? He also has a part to play in this. It takes two to tango. She didn't just create the child on her own, right? So what about him? But he was completely excluded from the main storyline. And you could see from even then that within the roots of, the game, it was already politically engineered to just exclude men. And the whole story is based around women anyway.
So to say that players rejected games like those in order to stick a middle finger to this consulting firm, when again, no one really knew they existed during those games' releases, is just not true at all. But now, of course, we've been made more aware, and that worries them. And they likely are angry because now their name is being attached to something that will instantly mark those games for failure. And if the hard work of the games made are rejected and fail because of Sweet Baby's involvement, then obviously, going forward, less studios or publishers will want to actively work with Sweet Baby so their games aren't marked and rejected in a mass exodus by future fans. But really, that isn't the fault of the fans or this curator tool either, because Sweet Baby could have been a positive change on the games that they worked on, but it's clear that their ideology and group collective mindset is anything but what fans want in their games. So really, if these people are mad about this, they can't blame anyone but themselves, because I didn't tell these consultants to do what they did, nor did any of you watching. Why is it our fault that these consultants have ruined so many great franchises already? Then, of course, the question becomes, well, what?
I mean, just look at what happened to Saints Row, right? The whole purpose of Saints Row was its wackiness, its silliness, its over-the-top antics where you could pick up a dildo and beat the living crap out of someone with it. That was what made Saints Row Saints Row. It was its quirkiness. It was its complete and utter stupidness of, the complete opposite of what GTA was. It's like, it was basically just like a complete mirrorcast of what GTA was, and it just was like almost the greatest parody of all time. And they decided to take that and completely change it and remove everything that made Saints Row Saints Row. And in the end, not only did Sweet Baby Inc. cost the game any chance of survival, it destroyed the game, but also destroyed the studio, and all the employees lost their money. Their jobs. And publishers like Microsoft, Square Enix, and so forth are still going to these people after seeing the damage and detrimental effects that these people have done to other studios. I don't get it. I don't. I mean, I would never go to these people. I would, build my own internal DEI if I have to, but I would not go to these people, because anything that they've touched so far has been pretty bad. And even Gears 5, it was so safe and so predictable and so, kind of, hey, Marcus, you're the main guy, but you are totally taking the backseat for this one. It was all so done in such a predictable way. That's why it didn't even get a good rating, because it never took risks. The writing was just not good enough. But that's Sweet Baby for you.
What do they have to do in the future then? Of course, this consulting firm will want to keep getting paid and exist, but if their name being tied to a project will instantly flag it for mass rejection, what do they do now? The likely scenario is they work on future projects in an uncredited fashion. Or they get listed in the credits of future projects with different names, like instead of the credits of a game just saying Sweet Baby in it, it'll just say consultants and a name or something like that. But I would argue going forward now that people are hyper aware to the existence of this group. And
I mean, can you even do that? That is disingenuous, right? If you're not actually reporting. I guess if they shut the business down and come up with as an anonymous consultant agency, they can. But that would still be anonymous, right? If they shut the studio down due to financial reasons and come back, that actually enters Phoenix Company territory, and that's illegal, right?
And every single game being made now, especially those of Western studios, will have their credits and development examined with a surgical lens. And every single game being made will be examined and studied by literally thousands of people to ensure each game made is not stained with the mark of the stinky poor baby and their woke consultants. And maybe even then, they'll just forego their name being attached to anything, and will simply work as an invisible boogeyman in the industry going forward. But then, whenever a game comes out and the writing seems off, or the characters, especially straight white ones, start to feel as if they're being undermined, players will likely then collectively start theorizing if the game they're playing has been marked. So really, there's no realistic way that Sweet Baby, in my opinion, will be able to operate going forward without their existence being called out constantly. And if they truly believe they can strong-arm the industry into parading around while being attached to them, then we're going to see more studios close. We'll have more massive failures and franchises being destroyed and then some in the future. Because at this point, the only way to rid the industry of a cancer like this is by starving it and propping it up for all to see. It does break my heart that the Rocksteady I used to love has been reduced to a sniveling pile of disappointment and ashes. Like there was this article from Paul Tassi about Suicide Squad recently titled, "It no longer seems possible Suicide Squad will last a year."
I mean, it's doing really, really, really bad. No one is playing it. And everyone that's played it is saying, well, I'm done with it now, and I'm coming. Like, they're making excuses. It's a live service game. It's a looter shooter. The whole purpose of this game is to keep you in the game and keep you playing. And people are just dropping it quite quickly and moving on. You know, it's... I actually feel sorry for Rocksteady, but they just went down. You know, there was multiple reasons why the Suicide Squad failed, including the fact that it's a live service looter shooter, which, you know, characters like Boomerang don't use guns and whatnot, you know, and the way the story proceeded with like Boomerang pissing on the Flash, Batman getting shot in the forehead, every single death that was done to a male character was done in a very, very demeaning and disrespectful way. But to the female characters, they were treated with the utmost respect and like queens. There's a stark contrast in how these two genders are being treated, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Sweet Baby Inc. way. That is the Sweet Baby Inc. effect.
I mean, just reading what Paul says here is brutal. He said, and I quote, "I have never seen a game with this much time invested, with this much money invested from such a talented developer self-destruct this quickly. And now things have gotten so bad with Suicide Squad that it no longer feels possible that the game will get out the year of content it has already announced for the game. As Warner Bros. Does not seem like a company that is in any mood to throw good money after bad reviews. And they've already commented that the game has performed below its expectations, which has set them up for a tough year in their gaming division. Suicide Squad did not debut well on PC or Xbox to start with, as the game was doing half of Marvel's Avengers debut numbers on Steam, and it never got higher than top 20 on Xbox. It did get to number 1 on PlayStation for a time, but after a short while fell out of the top 10 entirely, and we don't know where it is now. But after a month, things are just bleak. I haven't seen Suicide Squad inside Xbox's top 50 for a week at least. And now on Steam, which yes, should be a solid place to play the game, I have 60 hours in there, now has hard to believe player counts. The game peaked at just 593 players yesterday. An hour ago, there were just 287 players online. Reviews.
Now keep in mind, something like Helldivers, which is on like 450k peak all time, it's getting like 300k in the evenings, 100k, 150k at its lowest points, and we're talking here 200. That's a dead game.
Remain 80% positive, but it simply doesn't matter. It's an utter ghost town. I did not like Suicide Squad much at launch. I still think it's full of massive problems, but I did enjoy making builds and moment-to-moment gameplay over time. I would like more characters, more missions, and course correction from what's gone wrong. But this game is performing badly at a level rarely seen, and it does not at all seem like this is going to work. And I fear about future layouts at Rocksteady given recent industry trends and just how poorly this has gone. It's a brutal saga and it may be about to get worse, end quote. And as we've seen with the layoffs in the industry, which are coming pretty much daily at this point, I don't think it's a matter of if, but when Rocksteady gets hit with major layoffs.
That's the problem, right? That is the problem. We already saw studios closing down because of Baby Ink's involvements and destroying games, but when they work on games, this is the detrimental effect that can happen. And this is what I don't want to happen, but unfortunately it is a side effect, and, you know, there's no real win situation here, and because this game has bombed so hard, layoffs are going to happen, and good talent is going to be lost because they are still going with this piece of shit company, Sweet Baby Inc.
And I wouldn't be surprised if, by the end of this year, that the name Rocksteady ends up ceasing to exist entirely. And it's not just because Squad is live service, which is a dying genre already, but that it, like many other games I've shown, have been marked with the stink of the Sweet Baby. And it's proof that now going forward, if you want to push identity politics and nonsense like this, you're probably going to fail. I truly do think that we're seeing a turning point in the industry and the culture war in general right now. I think we're going to see the entire industry changing its tune and realizing that this moronic push for these ideas are going nowhere but a race to the bottom of the barrel. And I think what these Sweet Baby consultants are trying to do won't work and will just result in the Streisand effect, which just means more people will become aware and support this curator tool. And actually, by attempting to silence this user and the tool in question, these stink Sweet Babies have just exposed themselves to an even greater audience than they normally were already.
I mean, there was one post that I saw that said that if you are a member of this group, you are racist. And this was coming from a Sweet Baby Inc. employee. Lego Butts made a tweet saying that he had a nightmare where his face or her face was black or wasn't black, something like that, which is like really racist, right? It's not nice. So they're accusing people of being racist when they themselves have racism embedded into everything they're doing, especially when they're employing people like that. It's this is the same person that made a developer delete their save file, so you can't really be surprised. Yet these are the type of people that Sweet Baby Inc. is employing, and this is the type of company that publishers out there, AAA publishers or small indie publishers, are going to for advice. It's not on. It's disgusting.
So they screwed themselves over and kind of made it worse for themselves. Also, in terms of those consultants attacking that user, this person said it best. This is targeted harassment, by the way, and they're right. If they're actively trying to send a mob to strong-arm a platform into silencing or banning someone, that's harassment, bullying, and against the terms of service. But it's not surprising considering people like this Legobot person has a history of doxing, bullying, and using influence to silence others. But I hope what this video has done has shown you to not be silent. Don't be afraid, and don't ever think you're not good enough to speak on something or stand up to someone. That's how the bullies win, and I just want you to know that I stand with the people against these fanatics. We're stronger together, and we can change things through talking to each other and by being positive and helping one another. Let's never stoop to their level. After all, that's what they want us to do, but we're better than that, aren't we? And finally, just to really drive this home, I don't think that inclusivity is a bad thing in video games, but it's...
Exactly. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a really, really good thing. Because there are other people than straight people out there. They do exist. We share a world with them. It's not like we can ignore them. They are here and they are normal people. Whether you like it or not, they are normal people. I've got friends who are gay, who are lesbian, who are trans, and they are just fantastic people, and I've got no problems with them. They treat me like a human being. I treat them like a human being. We've got, we're really good friends. There's literally nothing to say about it. So DEI in itself is not a bad thing if it's done correctly. The problem with Sweet Baby Inc. is they're not doing it correctly. They're using it as a politically engineered move. And one more thing I want to add before I play the rest of the video is that, when I was speaking to a lot of my friends, especially during the start of last year with the whole Hogwarts thing, they actually hated the whole trans movement, the LGBTQ movement that was happening with Hogwarts, because it does more damage to the LGBTQ community, for those people who are, doing their best to be accepted by society, because there is still a huge chunk of people who don't accept them. But, they are doing a lot of work to change that. And, I'm happy for them. I'm also supportive in that. But stuff like that just doesn't do them any favors. It doesn't help them, achieve their goals. It actually works counterintuitive and makes it even harder for them. And what Sweet Baby Inc. is doing here isn't helping the LGBTQ community in any way, shape, or form. All they are doing is making things worse for them, making people become more aggressive towards them, because they feel like this company exists because of them. And as a byproduct, people start treating them like garbage. And this is not on. This isn't how we should be as a society. If you have a problem with Sweet Baby, just point your aggression at them, not at the byproduct community, because by and large, they do not like what they are seeing from Sweet Baby Inc. either. That much I'm sure of.
It's very clearly being used by people like the Stinky Babies to ruin this industry for their own reasons. I think it's okay to want representation, but it should never come at the cost of belittling or ruining another group in order to make it happen. And I think that's really what is the core of this fight anyway. And it's very obvious that the only real reason these consultants are mad are because they will not be able to operate at the same capacity that they used to, and are likely fearful that this very public backlash against them during an era of layoffs, mind you, is quite simply the worst timing possible for someone like Sweet Baby. Because if these studios and publishers are already slashing so many jobs due to mismanagement, bloat, live service failures, and low sales, what competent company will look at the track record and built-in disdain of a consulting group like this and genuinely think including their name attached to one of their future projects is a good idea? And like I said, if what needs to happen to change things is to burn everything to the ground to start anew, it's very clear that consumers, and even the executives in charge of big IP, are willing to do just that. It's a losing war, and the consumers will win this regardless. You never attack your audience like this, and Sweet Baby, like many others before them, are learning the hard way. But maybe that's a good thing, because this needs to change. And if it means by burning it all to the ground, it looks like that's what's going to happen, whether any of us want it to happen or not. So thanks for watching, subscribe, like, and share the video if you enjoyed it, and have a wonderful day. Thanks to...
That's a fantastic video by Endymion. Like I said, really good video. I'm going to drop him a sub because that was actually a really good video. I'm going to give him a like as well. Like I said, I'm going to drop a link to this in my description. Please come here. Obviously, this video was a lot longer. This is a 20-minute video. Just let it play in the background. Please, I implore you, if you want me to react to videos this early, this is something that I would like you to do. Even if half of you did it, that is more than enough for me. But please, do that so I don't personally feel bad for reacting to videos this early in their life cycle. I usually have a rule that is 48 hours before I can actually do this, but a lot of you actually wanted me to react to this tonight. I'm going to try and push this out tonight as well. It is currently 12:30, so please do go check it out. Even if you watch this now and then come tomorrow, later on in the day and let it play out, just let it play out. So I don't feel bad about, removing some of his orders, regardless of how small I am. 100 views, 1,000 views, 5,000 views is still 5,000 views, is still revenue. Right, that's the video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Remain legend.